Why keep it open source?
First off, you have all of the people who have built one that have not paid us a penny get to have a pick and place now. There's so many people way smarter than me in the community that are like, Steven, you dummy, don't do it that way. Like, try it this way. This is going to work better.
Right.
And sure enough, they're right. So it betters the whole design for that purpose too. The benefits are just so overwhelming.
We live in a time where design and technology touch every aspect of our lives. But where did it all come from? Who designed it? How was it built and brought to market? What will it look like in a year? 2 years? 100 years? From the phones and smartwatches that help us in our day-to-day to the cutting-edge spaceships and 3D printers that are leading us into the future, modern design is constantly shaping the way we work, communicate, problem solve, and play. And every new design, big or small, starts with an idea and a bill of materials. I'm Magenta Strongheart, and this is The Bomb, where we talk to leading innovators in the tech world and celebrate the transformational power of design. Today, we're at part 2 of our 3-part bonus series spanning the entire globe and every level of hardware innovation. Last week, we were in Bali at the Bali Fab Fest. This week, we're at Supercon 6, and next week, we'll end the series with the industry side of things at Electronica. So we're back home this week at Supply Frame Design Lab in Pasadena, where we hosted the 6th annual Supercon in November. Smaller than most conferences and entirely open source hardware focused, it's a weekend full of talks, live demos, the Hackaday Prize award ceremony, and a whole lot more, including a surface mount soldering contest. Today, I'll talk with 3 of the folks that were involved in the contest: Helen Lee, who walked right into the competition from our interview, Stephen Hawes, whose pick and place machine was the grand prize, and of course, the winner, Tom Gurman. First up is Helen Lee. She's an educator, electronic textile specialist, and hardware hacker. She is the head of community at Crowd Supply and the author of the Crafty Kid's Guide to DIY Electronics. Helen and I first met at Supercon number 4 back in 2018. She was a speaker then, and she spoke again this year about soft electronics. In my interview with her, we talked about what you need to have in order to get support from Crowd Supply, how they launch hardware products, and the inspiration for the Mini Moo Glove. We're here at Supercon 6, Supercon 2022. Excited to be back in person after 2 years remote. And I'm so stoked to have Helen Lee here joining me on our special episode of The Bomb.
The Bomb.
Welcome to The Bomb, Helen.
I'm so happy to be here. And I'm very, very excited to be back at Supercon after all this time.
I know. We were just talking about how we met at Supercon in 2018 and then had an awesome
times.
Yeah, right? Before. When even was that? What was going on? I know we have to like reorient
when
ourselves.
Time and space meant things.
Right.
Yeah.
And we met here. I remember just being like, you were doing a talk, right?
No, the first year I came, the second year I came, I did a talk.
Okay,
in 2019, I did a talk on music tech hacking.
Yeah.
The first year I came was really last minute, like Kickstarter. Someone from Kickstarter emailed me and said, like, we've got we'd like to send a few like up and coming makers to Supercon. They had some tickets spare.
Awesome.
I don't know what the deal was, but they sent me, and it was all very last minute.
Yeah.
And I just came here. It was the first time I'd actually come to any American hacker conference.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah.
And it's just so crazy because ever since then we've done so many projects and collaborations, and it's just been like, we're part of the same world at this point. So hard to keep track of everything. But yeah, so 2018, and I remember that was actually the last time we also as a company, Supply Frame, went to Munich Electronica, and you were coming from Berlin. So you're like, oh my gosh, you're going to be in Germany in just a week or two, which were happening. It's funny because that's happening again this year. So we're going to do some special edition Electronica content as well for The Bomb. In a week, we're having back-to-back marathon conferences.
Oh my goodness.
But I'm sad I won't get to visit you in Berlin this time.
It's true.
But what was fun was you invited me to Berlin after that, and we got to check out all the maker spaces, hacker spaces scene in Berlin after that, which was awesome. We went to the original first hacker space, C-Base.
We went to Motion Labs as well.
Also the amazing wearable textile electronic studio.
Oh, yes, of course. You got to go to Cobercon.
Yes, Cobercon. I was trying to remember their name.
Lots of people are jealous. I've forgotten that I took you to Cobercon while it was still open. For those of you that don't know, Cobercon is like this design studio for wearable electronics run by these 2 women called Hannah and Mika. I think they met at MIT or something. Anyway, They created this incredible like community and website which has loads and loads, like the wearables like Bible basically.
Yep.
It's like how to connect different things, how to work with different types of fabrics, where you can get them, yada yada yada. So they briefly had an open studio that you could go and visit, and we did go there. That was magical, like really magical.
Yeah, and you're super deeply involved in the wearable tech music scene for a number of reasons. I'd love for you to walk us through sort of your history with your MIDI glove. And
which one?
Right? Which glove?
Which MIDI glove?
True. Good point. All of them. The first one, the latest one, whatever you want to talk about. And then how that brought you to your role today at Crowd Supply, which is also really interesting to get into with our community here, because that's what sort of brings some of the projects that are popular at an event like Supercon to more of an industry level almost, and product development level and distribution level and all of that. So we'll get into that as well.
Wow, the MIDI glove, it came from like very early on actually in my like hacker community journey. So that really takes me all the way back to London, which is where I first became involved with this community through an Intel project, which was based in a hackerspace. I was a contractor and I walked into the hackerspace and I was like, what is this place? And basically just never left, this community. And in the second hackerspace I was part of in London, which is called Machines Room, RIP. Beautiful space.
So many spaces like that. I feel like pour one out.
That place was like maker utopia to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, there was a group of music tech hackers, a community around that area. Then there were a couple of different hacker spaces that were close to each other, and we did like crossover events. There was a group called Hackoustic, and we all made our own instruments. More importantly, which really helped with the culture there, we held every other month. We held like show and tell events where people would come along and share their work in progress and like play things and like just show other people, not just the instruments. It wasn't just a demonstration. It was here's the approach I've been taking. Here's all these design decisions I've made. This is the code I've been using. So like this culture of sharing how you made stuff, right? And that really got me started in MIDI and like mapping gesture to MIDI and like just trying and working on projects. So that was the kind of like context in which the first big MIDI glove project. And I guess actually also back in that time, I was making these kits, right? I had a series of little kits that I was making.
You developed your own like educational version of like dev kit kind of
loads
for this
of things.
club, right?
I did like a whole like I learned to code Arduino course, and I did like a make your own synthesizer from a breadboard, all these kind of like little things in a box with curriculum, this kind of stuff. That was before I decided that I hate logistics.
But I'm sure that experience was integral to
absolutely
your know-how with that process, because design for manufacture is no joke, as we know, and it's hard, especially with physical components, and even harder these days with all the supply chain madness. So I'm sure that's so like foundational to how you're supporting creators at Crowd Supply now.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, as part of that kind of period of my life, I got to go over to China a number of times to research design for manufacture techniques that were prevalent in Shenzhen and then the wider Guangzhou area. And as part of that, I got to know so many different design processes and so many just the different ways that you can make a thing, right? And that was so valuable to me to this day, but I'm glad I personally don't make kits anymore. It was the postage stuff that like I was like, I can't do it.
I've heard that across the board, even with some of our Tindy creators and stuff. It's like no one wants to deal with the logistics and delivery and all of that.
We'll circle back around to that later, because actually Moser does all the logistics for the Crowd Supply campaigns, which people don't know.
Huge advantage.
It is a huge advantage. It's
of
like
working with you all.
Yeah, some people do stuff with us just for that. But anyway, so I was making these kits. I was doing I had this range of educational kits, and I came across there's a London music hacker team who are working on this project with Imogen Heap, who's a producer and musician. It's called the Mimu glove, which is this. It was at the time it was super expensive. It was like $2,000 per glove. And it was a gesture-based interface for Ableton. And I came across it because I saw Ariana Grande using it in her concert. And I was so interested in, I thought it would be an amazing hook for a kid's lesson, you know, like to show them, to show Ariana Grande playing a piece of technology and then be like, I can make this myself.
How can you make a version? Yeah.
So I designed like obviously it wasn't $2,000 worth of hardware.
Yeah.
I used
but still so awesome.
Yeah,
and
I used a pair of $12 microcontrollers that linked to Ableton or like made chiptune MIDI music on the glove, and through like three other people in the music hacking community in London, I got in touch with Imogen Heap and told her that I'd like to do this workshop and asked her if she'd be okay with it. And she was not only okay with it, she asked me to make it into a product, which is still like my biggest selling product.
Yeah, so
like
awesome.
It's been on sale in Japan, and like Micro Center stocked it for a while. Everything. My hand is on the box even.
It's a hit.
Wild.
No, it's a huge hit.
It was thousands and thousands of sold, which is really nice to know. Anyway, so that was my first MIDI glove.
Yeah.
But that kind of transformed over the years, and like there's something quite amusing about using a $12 children's microcontroller to control like a grown-up production piece of software like Ableton. I don't know. There's something. I mean, obviously the latency is terrible, and like, but it's just so funny, you know.
Yeah, but it's a way to make that process and experience so much more accessible and approachable. And it's like you said, it's that hook. It's a way to get people in the door who aren't familiar with this kind of technology and get some experience. And especially for students, that's huge.
Totally. No, it's a really powerful thing.
I was going to say that there was an interesting story with some of the material development stuff for the Imogen Heap glove, right? And kind of linking back to some of the stuff we deal with in like supply chain challenges, trying to get access to some of that material and what happened with some of the conductive materials throughout that, right?
So the Rachel Freer was the woman who was on point for a lot of the textiles for the latest version of the Mini Me glove. But there have been like a whole bunch of really amazing hackers who are involved in that project, including Adrian Freed and Dr. Callie Snook, if you know her work. They've been doing some really interesting stuff with like bonded conductive fabric.
Like I think some of that was developed for that project.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think it's just an interesting perspective on the I think some of the dynamics that happen as things go in and out of open source, which I wonder if that comes up a lot with crowd supply products and teams that you work with, because you guys it's all open source,
it actually
right?
Does. It actually does. It comes up quite a lot. And I think especially I think the community is wary of someone who's going to get like a whole bunch of VC. They want to come in, they're going to open source something, aka like milk the community for their code, and then they'll make it proprietary and go away, or like make a video. Do you know what I mean? Like that's poor. That's like terrible etiquette. That is poor behavior. But we
don't like those people.
But there are there's absolutely people who have like an open source version of something and then like a proprietary version with, there are people who come in and out of open source, so like live on the edge, and like
you can totally make it work in other ways.
You can totally make it work. Then there are some people who just do open source hardware and make a living, which is very exciting to see. People like Ben Hank now doing the Pixel Blaze, like he started doing that as a side hustle, right? Started off on Tindy, did a crowd supply campaign, now sells on both crowd supply and Tindy, and it's now his full-time job.
Yeah,
which is
really
like
awesome.
Amazing to see.
Yeah.
That you can really make a living just by selling open source hardware. It's really nice.
And it can be sustainable for an individual to get their work out there and be able to take care of themselves.
Exactly, which is the goal, right?
Yes,
that's the dream.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Keep doing what you love and be able to survive. And so on that note, I think we've alluded to crowd supply enough now. Maybe we should get into it. Can you tell us what's the elevator pitch for crowd supply for those who don't know?
Crowd supply is curated crowdfunding for engineers, right? So we do open source hardware mainly. I mean, we'll get into that shortly, but we have, so everybody knows the concept of crowdfunding, but we're very highly curated. We turn away between 90 and 95% of all submissions. We have very high standards, like no renders, like you've got to have a fully functioning prototype. There's all sorts of like rules that we have.
And you do that because you guys offer such one-on-one, like high quality support throughout the entire process. process.
And like any of the other crowdfunding sites, we actually do invest financially, and I'm not talking like taking a percentage. Like there's no equity involved, but the ones that are successful, say for example, if you raise $50,000 on crowd supply from your community, we will additionally purchase $50,000 worth of stock.
Amazing.
Yeah, and pay up front as well, which really helps people get lower manufacturing costs.
That's huge.
But also, not only that, they get an ongoing distribution deal, non-exclusive distribution deal with Mauser worldwide. So Mauser will continue to stock and purchase your product on an ongoing basis.
That's so cool. And what's like do you know, sorry to put you on the spot, off the top of your head, the longest running product now from Crowd Supply that Mauser's distributing?
I don't know actually. I know we've definitely got boards that have like a really long tail. In fact, it depends, right? So some things are going to do better on Mauser than other things. And then there's some, you still have to have like these sales channels. Like it's a distribution.
There's still marketing
mechanism.
required.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Although some things have that, some things are purely functional and they, so that people, buy it because they need it, not necessarily it markets itself. But anyway, many years, many people actually get more money afterwards than the crowdfunding campaign is like a way to launch and get it onto.
Right. But the distribution is what makes it long lasting.
Yeah, because like the thing is like with crowdfunding, it's one and done. Like that's not a sustainable revenue stream.
Right.
You need to be able to keep selling product and keep selling old product. Like it can't just be new all the time. Like, it's just creating that sustainable revenue stream, and like hopefully like then if a creator comes back and then they have like a stock that they're able to sell, which is really nice. So
what are some of your favorite projects you've supported at your time at Crowd Supply so far?
So I really like, we have a lot of open source watches of various descriptions. I really like both. I like Watchy, which was this really cool e-ink watch designed by a team out of New York. Really, really attractive. I don't have it on. I had it on yesterday. I know. What was I doing? I was right. It is a dope looking watch. It's a really cool. Yeah. And the packaging clean for that is incredible. Like I've never seen open source hardware packaging like that was fun and colorful, and it was so like
well designed.
It was such a great design. I'm very happy to see like the standards of packaging and open source hardware and the standards of documentation just increasing.
Continuing to elevate. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like even in my time in open source hardware, it's just it's become so much better. Yeah, it's great. So Watchy is one. I also really love. I like the ink plate series. They're based out of Radionos, Croatia. There's like a very lively Croatian hacker and maker movement. Awesome. But I like them. You like this because it fits with the hackaday theme this year. So they take old Kindle screens out of the waste stream and then they put them onto an open source driver board.
Oh, that's so cool.
So basically they're repurposing all of these old screens, and they have a whole range of them, and they continue to. They're a great one for a long tail. They continue to sell, right? So they've got all these different formats. You've got color, you've got black and white, different size screens, yada yada yada. And that's a good example of someone who keeps on doing the thing, and it's got a longer tail, right? So it builds an actual business.
No, that's so cool to hear. I need to look into them more.
That was fun. That was Watchy. Pixel Blaze, amazing. We love Pixel Blaze. Ben Hank is the LED wizard. That's really great. Oh, and Sensor Watch, Joey Castillo's one. I love that one. So Joey Castillo is a really awesome hacker from Texas. Gone back to Texas now, actually. He was in Brooklyn for a while. But he made this hack for the Casio watch. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen his project. I know Casio watches.
Okay, so the Casio watches. So he's done this. So if you've got your own Casio watch, you can take the back off of it and replace the standard PCB with Joey's PCB.
Okay.
And it turns it into like the dumbest smartwatch. Right. So it's got like you can put like it's got little different sensors on it. It's got like lunar calendars. It's got like you can do like authentication from it. Like it's really dope. But I just love
but it
like
fits in the classic Casio.
Yeah, you literally just take out the existing PCB.
Get one of those.
It's so fun. It's so fun.
Hopefully next time I see you, I'll have one.
And they're like, they're really cheap. He's done it for like $50 or something.
So cool.
Yeah, he's such a cool guy.
That's awesome.
And he's doing that open book as well, which won that Hackaday prize.
Like he should be a speaker. That sounds like such an awesome project.
Yeah. I don't know if he does talks, but he's such an interesting guy. Really.
Yeah.
really, he does great Twitter threads as well on his process.
Okay,
because
check him out.
He's a good example actually of someone who's making a living doing open hardware now. So he did a crowdfunding campaign with us for Sensor Watch. Sold like over 1,000 of those, which is great. And he's also done a Featherwing, which he's like distributing to Adafruit and so on. So he didn't do a crowdfunding campaign for that one. That's like a component that he's putting out there. Again, getting bits in here.
Another
he's
stream,
also working like on the open book, which would probably be another crowdfunding campaign. So, and then, like this, it's just all these different streams of like
but complementary, but
have
still
a long tail.
long-term sustainable.
Exactly. It's not
income.
like one shot and done. So he's doing some really great work. The open book stuff is really cool. I actually assembled the latest version on Friday.
Okay, what's open book?
Yeah, so open book is like an open hardware version of the Kindle.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, it's really nice. Actually, one of the early versions was like one of the runners-up, I think, for a Hackaday prize in 2018.
Okay.
Don't know.
Okay, I need to check that as well.
Exactly. And you can,
every time we talk, I'm like, okay,
files.
I have a running list of like all these notes. I need to look into this. Absolutely.
I've got the latest version of it, and it's like really nice, and it feels really good in your hands.
Very cool. I would love to check
it's
that
real
out.
Small. It's like this big.
Nice.
Very
so portable, easy to take anywhere. Great for travel.
Fun times.
Awesome. And so just one last, I think, roundup.
There was one thing I wanted to say about Crowd Supply that I didn't say, which was for our creators, we also handle all the logistics, which is a really big piece.
Well, this is what I was going to say. I'd love to get I know it's hard to do quickly, but the list of bullet points of why people would want to participate in crowdfunding through Crowd Supply, which I think we've already heard a lot of the benefits, but just the bullet point list, and then what people need to do to be at the level, I think, to be eligible and really succeed with you all. Because like you said, you turn a lot of ways. So
we do.
What are the whatever you want to say, top 5, top 10 things you look for that people should be aware of if they're interested in working with Crowd Supply?
Okay, so in terms of the advantages, it's very much like a hand-holding system. We're used to working with engineers who don't know a thing about,
they don't want to do marketing. They don't want to do the business side of stuff. They're excited about their technology.
Exactly. So we have an in-house editor and videographer, like a technical writer. You get you get your own project manager, and all of it's handled through. I know this sounds people love this though, but it's all handled through GitHub issues. So you have we all we spin up a repo.
It's relatable,
So we spin up a personal repo for each project, and we assign you issues, and you have to complete the issues, in order
to speak our language.
So that's quite fun. Anyway, so you get handheld through a lot of the process. So that's number one. So we try it because we're invested in you. We want you to do well, right?
Yeah, meet people where they're at.
Yeah, so there's lots of hand holding. We do all of the logistics, i.e., you send one big box of product to Mauser, or actually sometimes we pick it up. So sometimes we will pick up one big box of product from your final place of manufacture or testing, whatever you're doing, and we will import it and get it into our warehouse, or you can send it to us direct to our warehouse. In any case, you can just send it in electrostatic bags. We will post and package it to all of your backers.
Oh my gosh, incredible.
Yeah, so we handle all the warehousing, all of the logistics. We sort VAT before all these things you don't know that you don't want to deal with. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
We've got a CE team. We can advise you on certifications.
That's huge, because that can be such a hurdle for folks.
It's a huge level of service, and we remove a lot of the headaches, and we know what's problematic and what's not, because everybody has the same problems, right? Because we see all of these different creators come through, and we work so closely with all of them. We see what people are struggling with, and sometimes we can't fix every problem for you, but we can at least give you some advice on how to deal with it, right? So there's that thing that's important. The match funding also is really a big deal for a lot of people. The ongoing worldwide distribution, also an absolutely enormous deal for a lot of people. So I'd say those are and also we have an existing community. So we've got a 70,000+ person newsletter, which is extremely opt-in, and it's filled with engineers and hardware hackers.
It's people who want to support this kind of work, who are interested, who want these products.
People really
their
want to buy
workshops.
price supply products. Yeah. I mean, actually, some people think we make the products.
Yeah.
Which we're constantly like, no, that's not the case.
Yeah, we're a platform.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like it's a full service thing. You get an ongoing revenue stream. But it's definitely a level up. And like, that brings me to the next question that you asked. So because you are being onboarded by Mauser, right? You have to conform to a higher standard than if you are selling and shipping your own kits from somewhere like Tindy, right? You are in Tindy, you are responsible for the shipping, you are responsible for the certifications. There's very little oversight, and it's also very unlikely that if you're doing something like a little bit wrong, then someone's going to pick up on you. You're like, oh, you're not declaring the right thing, or yada yada yada. But when you get distributed by a big company like Mauser, they have very strict, like a lot of standards, right? So there is a step up from DIY to it's becoming more of a, like, you have to do manufacture rather than like.
That's what I was going to ask next. How much do people who are making these products have to know about design for manufacture? It sounds like you said you guys are picking up a box of the inventory from the creators. So that means that they're not just at prototype level. They need to have produced, they have contract manufacture, they have relationships, they know how to make at scale.
Yeah, I mean, we have a mixture, right? We have maybe like 50% of the people who come to us have done a lot of work with manufacturers before. They know exactly what you're doing, yada, yada. But we do also have a lot of first timers, right? And you can get rid of a lot of the problems by getting a good CM. And there's actually really great services these days from places like JLC PCB. Like they have like, you can get assembly, you can get, reliable stuff done these days. The resources are increasingly accessible, right?
Absolutely.
For ordinary people with a bit of guidance, But okay, let me tell you the actual things that we need,
the
which is
criteria.
The criteria is you have to have a fully functional prototype. No renders allowed.
Okay.
No
napkin sketches.
No sketches. No vaporware. You have to actually have built the thing.
Yeah, you have to be able to hold it in your hands or whatever it is.
I'm sure your idea is very nice, but until it's an actual thing, we're gonna say like, good luck with that.
Yeah, come back to us when you have a product.
When it's real. So that accounts for a surprising number of people who don't have who we turn away because you need to have the actual thing. Especially because hardware is hard, right? And like the hardware failure rate on Kickstarter is so high that for us, we're like, first, like, trust is the most important thing for us. So we need to know that you have made the thing you say you're going to make and that you are going to deliver it and that it is functional, right? Because that not being the case would be a disaster for us,
right?
That's
a wormhole you're not trying to go down.
We've built up a lot of community trust over the years, there's only been we've never had like a scam. We've had like people deliver really late.
Knock on wood, no.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. But yeah, so we had one instance where someone went AWOL, but we refunded everybody the money ourselves. So like the trust of our community is very, very important to us. So the things you need to do, you have to have a prototype. You have to have at least shown it to somebody in the community, and be like, hey, like, you have to show that the community exists or that the market exists, right? And that you know what it is. It has to be original and respectful. So no like clones, no like white labeling of other people's technologies, no pure assemblies. Like if you just like plug three things together or whatever, that's not allowed. So it has to be that you have created an original piece of hardware and it's not like ripping somebody off in a horrible manner, those things. And then, we think it has to be useful. So like we have like it's not yet another microcontroller board. It's something that's doing something, useful. So we do a lot of dev boards, which are for people to learn how to use certain pieces of technology. But when it comes to the more kind of consumer or product oriented things, we do like take a look and see if other people, if it's already exists in a better form factor, or it's already, if the sensor exists and it's not bringing anything new to the table, then we won't bring it. Or for example,
value.
the one we always say is like, oh yes, yet another IoT, like a modular IoT ecosystem. Yeah, and they've done like zero like actual community anything, you know, like because Arduino is not just successful because it's got the best processor,
right?
Like which it does not, you know.
No, it's all the resources that go along with it in the community that they've built.
For something that's got to be like for something like that, you know, if you
better actually have the ecosystem.
Exactly. If you're just creating the hardware, you've fundamentally misunderstood what it is that you're creating in that particular thing. So, yeah, just some you know, like demonstrate some idea of market sense, have a prototype, have it be at least in some way open source hardware. So the gold standard for us is Open Source Hardware Association certified. That's the gold standard. But the minimum, like our minimum benchmark is you have to release your firmware and your schematics. And that's like a rights repair issue for us, you know, like particularly with indie electronics. Like what if someone decides, what if like John Doe decides that he doesn't want to do this, support this thing in like 3 years, and what you're left with a paperweight? I think that's not acceptable. So you have to at least provide schematics and firmware. And what we try and do is we try and push everybody like one step more open than they come to us. So if they are like, we don't want to do anything, we're like, well, you have to at least do the schematics and the firmware. If they want to do the schematics and the firmware, we'll talk to them about opening up their board files. And if they're open to that, then we'll say, hey, go for the full OSHWA certification, like with full best practice.
That's
so
we're
awesome. Just trying to push one step more
raise
open.
the bar for folks. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it's just so awesome. You're thinking about putting more resources in the hands of the consumer to take care of their products, you know, like you said, I think there is some like we're sometimes, obviously, we have a different community we're interacting with regularly of folks who do want to manage their products and they always want to tear them apart and work on them and improve them and that kind of thing. But to put more ownership in the consumer's hands around that, and to be able to fix their things, to repair them, to think about if this company or creator isn't around forever, what are you going to do with this product so that it doesn't just go in the trash?
We actually do have like a user bill of rights. We have a certain like ethical codes that we would like our creators to adhere to. The thing I'm really excited about actually is the open science hardware community is starting to really grow, and people are sharing people are sharing their knowledge across borders. That's really exciting.
No, I love that. That's so cool. So I want to be respectful of your time. I want you to be able to get back to the con. I think you've given us a ton. Yes, go solder. Are you entering the competition?
I'm doing the SMD competition. Yeah.
We have an epic surface mount soldering challenge going on. There is a big prize on the board. Sorry, we need to wrap up. There goes. Oh, you're in this heat?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, literally Helen has to go. She's in this heat, so we'll let you go. I'm not going to ask our last question, which is what on your bill of your materials. Maybe think about it and we'll get you back later. On your personal bill of materials. Yeah, stay tuned. We'll put it in the show notes. I'll find you later. But good luck on the soldering challenge. I'll wrap it up without you. Thank you so much for taking the time, Helen.
Thanks.
And I hope that everyone got a ton more information. I know I just learned a ton more about Crowdfly than I ever knew before. And I think folks, it's just a huge resource. So I hope people look into it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Helen.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Next, we spoke to Stephen Hawes, who generously donated one of his open source pick and place machines as the grand prize for the soldering competition. What started as a small Kickstarter for a light-up bow tie evolved into a revolutionary company that makes open source pick and place machines. Usually a pick and place machine will cost a maker around $5,000, but with Stephen's open source version, you can put one together for only $500. Since February, Stephen has been on a journey innovating and improving his tech and drumming up a lot of excitement along the way. Hey, Stephen, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on The Bomb today. We're here at Supercon 6 2022, and this is not your first Supercon. We actually met at Supercon. I was trying to remember, 2018?
2019 was my first year. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. When was your first Supercon? Yeah. So this is actually your second one back after a big break.
Yes, yeah. I got like a little taste of it, and then it was gone for a while, and then coming back is...
And then we were virtual.
Oh, it's great. It's awesome to be back in person.
Yeah, it's been so great to see the enthusiasm enthusiasm from everyone, and to also just see like how much people have been up to since last one, especially you. You've started a whole company since last Supercon, and I'm excited to ask you a bunch of questions about it.
Sweet.
So you are making open source pick and place machines.
Yes.
What inspired you to do that? That sounds like a crazy challenge to take on.
It is. Yeah. Turns out it's kind of a lot. I did a really tiny Kickstarter for a light up bow tie. I actually had it at 2019 Supercon.
I remember that, I think.
Yeah. And I only like sold 100 of them on Kickstarter, but it was like over 3,000 components that I had to solder by hand.
Gosh, yeah.
And I was like, okay, so maybe I can get these made. And I look and see how much it's going to cost. It was so much. It like made my whole profit margin go away. I would lose money on it. So I had to do it by hand. And at the end of it, I was like, there's got to be something, it's naively, it's just an XYZ gantry with a vacuum pump on it. How hard could it be? Famous last words. Right. And then, and I started working on designing it and like got just enough progress to be like, wait, that's a problem I could solve, and got deeper and deeper into it. And eventually it got stable and useful. And it got to the point where like people wanted it, they wanted it to use it for useful work. So I started a company around it, and we've been selling them for a minute now. Awesome.
I was going to say, how many years or months into production are you guys?
Let's see. So we started selling in February of this year of 2020. And then after we got some feedback on those first kits, we changed some things, we made improvements. And then we released a new version in like July. It used to be like a box of parts. It was our BYOP, or bring your own printer kit. And that was great. But most people that want to pick and place, they want a tool. They don't want a project. They don't want to burn a weekend putting this thing together.
They're trying to use it to do maybe their other projects, most likely.
Exactly. Yeah. So like we're trying to get out of the way of that by making it as easy to get going as possible. So we made that change. So it's been, I don't know, since February. So coming up on a year-ish, 8 months, 9 months, something like that.
And we were talking about how it's kind of different to make a tool versus just another type of consumer product, right?
Yes.
So how would you say, I'm sure there's a ton of ways making a pick and place differs than making a light up bow tie, but what have been some of the major challenges that are more specific to building a tool for someone or a platform that someone else can use?
Right. When it's a tool, you also have like the software side of I need to control it. With the bow tie, it's like whatever, you set a color and off it goes. But when you're trying to set up the height of all your 402 components on your board, and that interface needs to be smooth. You want it to just get out of your way. You care about making your badge. You care about making your circuit board, making your product. You don't care about futzing with the details. So that's huge. Even with a product, sometimes you don't mind getting into it, but people that are getting a pick and place, they just want it to work. So it's about making it easy to get going with it and easy to understand. It's very similar to a 3D printer in a lot of ways. But there are some things about it that are unintuitive. There's 2 cameras. So you're actually doing machine vision on not only the PCB to find out where it is, but all the parts to align them well. That's kind of a weird thing for people that they have to get used to, and tuning the vision. And that's a whole new thing to learn. So that was definitely a big part of it. So trying to figure out how to show that to people in a way that it's easy to learn, huge challenge.
And what is that process like for kind of onboarding new customers, and this, like the way that you're providing support for this product, for this tool?
We have, so the software that you use for it is called OpenPNP, but it's an open source project. We did not make it.
Okay.
And
did a community, did another customer and community member make that?
Someone, Jason Vanita is his name, the lead developer. Awesome guy. He's been working on it for years.
Okay, before you guys started the Pick and Place project. Okay,
It's been around for a minute. And it's mainly around people who build just their own one-off machines.
Okay.
And that's kind of how they've been doing it. But there is a setting for everything in the software. So trying to figure out where to go to learn can be really, really hard in OpenPNP. So what we did is they have a whole docs page, but it's a lot to go through it. So we at Opulo, we have a person whose only job is documentation, and they just try and distill it down to these are the only things you need to think about. This is how you get going.
Starter guide.
Yes, starter guide. We made what I call the benchy of PCBs. Nice. So it's like when you get a printer, you print a benchy and test it. We made a PCB that it's your first job. And you see, all my components are off by 0.5 millimeter. This is what you do to change it.
Yeah, it helps calibrate everything, get you set up.
And you're not wasting your own parts.
Super smart. That makes a ton of sense.
It's helped a lot so far.
And so what's your background coming into this? Are you more from the mechanical side, the electronic side?
Kind of
a little bit of everything.
Mix. Yeah, I have a degree in mechanical engineering and minor in CS. I worked for a design firm where I had to build robots in a couple weeks, and then they flew me all over the world to show them off at conferences.
Oh, wow.
So I did rapid prototyping a lot. And then I worked at Formlabs, the resin 3D printing company, and I was on sustaining engineering, where my job was to help make sure all the printers in the field ran as well as possible. So it was like the spread of one thing quickly to a lot of things well.
Yeah.
But I was an EE there, so I've kind of dabbled in all three. I'm okay at all three of them, but not great at any of them, which is great to make a prototype and then let people who are smarter than me fix my designs in open source.
Yeah, totally. And that's a great segue to like why keep it open source and what are some of the some of the advantages of doing
it. I mean, first off, you have all of the people who have built one that have not paid us a penny get to have a pick and place now. Like if it's because they don't have the money for it or they like to build it.
Right.
Those people get to use it now. I mean, like that's the whole reason that this thing exists is to make it easier to make stuff. I mean, it's on the critical path to do that. So that's huge. Also, like I said before, I'm not the best at any of those three disciplines. There's so many people way smarter than me in the community that are like, Steven, you dummy, don't do it that way. Like, try it this way. This is going to work better. And sure enough, they're right. So it betters the whole design for that purpose too. The benefits are just so overwhelming. Just making it a better thing as a feedback from the people who actually want to use it.
Right.
It's an easy call.
The feedback loop, the user testing, all of that is like expedited and it's not in this closed environment of, if you're doing a private company round of user testing and surveys and all of that, you get all these unexpected probably use cases and experiences that you maybe never would have guessed, but that's what's going to make it better and better.
Right.
So
yeah. People doing weird stuff with it, trying to like pipette things with it. They're doing weird things. It's like, oh, well, I didn't even think about that as an application.
Yeah.
Is that something we want to support? How do we make sure that it's open so people could do that hack if they wanted to?
I love hearing those stories of like, what's the weirdest way that someone's using your product? Because there's always
weird stuff for sure. There's one company and like they do something with like crabs and farming crab. I don't remember exactly, but just across the board. It's so fascinating to see who picks one up and what they use it for. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, that's so awesome. Well, it's really awesome to learn more about your work and Opulo, and we really appreciate the donation of a PMP as our grand prize for the soldering challenge that our previous guest Helen had to jump off because she was joining one of the last heats. So we're super stoked to find out who's going to win that pick and place. And I know people are frantically, even behind the scenes right now behind us, soldering as we speak. So thank you so much, Steven, and thanks for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Lastly, of course, we've got to talk to the winner of the soldering challenge. By proving his ability to solder the very smallest of chips, Tom earned himself a machine to do it for him. This was Tom's first Supercon, and I loved hearing about the adrenaline rush of competing and what he plans to do with his brand new pick and place machine from Opulo. We're back, as promised, with the winner of the Surface Mount Soldering Challenge. Tom, congratulations. How excited are you about your new pick and place machine?
I'm very excited. Ironically, it was soldering that got me to win the prize. So now I've done it and now I don't have to do it again.
Yep.
But no, I'm very psyched. It will definitely go to good use.
Awesome.
So.
I would love to hear what you're planning on maybe making with your pick and place machine.
Obviously I wasn't expecting this. So I'm going to have to definitely get some ideas together. But I certainly have the background and the capability to use it. So, but no real ideas right off the bat.
Nice. Well, now you'll have the tool and the inspiration will strike, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Is this your first Supercon?
This is my first one. Yeah.
Awesome. So awesome to have a new attendee. It just wipe out the competition here. There's been a lot of returners. I heard it was pretty heated.
Yep.
What was going through your head as you were in the competition in the final round?
Did
you feel like you had it in the bag?
No, not at all. The competition itself has increasingly smaller different pieces that you have to apply, and I lost one of the ones that was at the smallest category, and so
that's why we always have the extra.
Yep, and immediately my adrenaline spiked. I was trying to get this thing done, hands not shaking, and managed to get through it. But it was there was a lot of chaos going on.
Did your final time beat your earlier time?
By a lot, yeah.
Okay,
yep.
What were the two times?
The first time was 27, I think. And the second time was 16 something.
Did you practice in between the two heats?
I did not.
Okay, nice. Not that we made any official rules about like that. I wonder if people were practicing on the side.
Nope, I did a little bit of soldering right at the beginning of the conference on Friday, and I haven't touched the soldering iron other than these two comps.
Nice.
So.
And so where do you get your soldering chops from?
I guess, a lot of prototyping, a lot of bodge wires, a lot of broken traces, and trying to fix things that shouldn't be fixed. So
Okay, and what's your line of work?
so I'm a director of engineering, have a lot of computer engineering experience, a lot of embedded systems stuff.
Awesome. Is your hardware side of things both on the job and after hours, or would you say you're more software during the day and hardware in your personal time?
A little bit of both. I certainly have I do a lot of engineering on a day-to-day basis, and in my free time, I've taught classes on Arduino and some of those kinds of things. I started up a makerspace, and so there were a lot of members who had a lot of questions about the electronics side. So
very cool.
I come from a wide variety background.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're so excited to have you here. How's your first Supercon experience been?
It's been fantastic.
It's kind of hard. You won't be able to beat this now. If the first one you win a pick and place machine, it's like, what are we going to do next year?
Right, absolutely. No,
we just have to up the ante every year. This was the first year, I don't know if you heard, where we had like a grand prize round. In the past, we've only had we've had each heat. We give away the Tindy gift cards, but we had the donation from Opulo, which was so awesome. Steven at Opulo wanted to give something back to this community, which was so great. And so we were like, we got to do a championship round and make it bigger and better than ever.
Well, and I want to thank Steven. I've been following him for a little while, so I'm especially excited to get a Lumen in particular. So
yeah, no, that's so great. We'll have to keep an eye on what you're up to. Please post on Hackaday if you make anything cool with your new Lumen.
Will do.
And thank you so much for stopping by and answering a few questions for us. Congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks so much to Tom, Steven, and Helen for talking with us at Supercon 6, and thank you for listening to this special bonus episode of The Bomb. We'll link Crowd Supply and Helen Lee's talk in the show notes. We'll also link Steven's open source pick and place, which you can make yourself. I hope you'll consider joining us next year for Supercon 7. You could be the next Tom. We'll see you next week for part 3 in this bonus series where we go to Electronica Munich. If you like The Bomb, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow Supplyframe and Hackaday on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and Design Lab at Supplyframe Design Lab on Instagram and Twitter. The Bomb is a Supplyframe podcast written, produced, and edited by Frank Driscoll and co-edited by Daniel Ferreira. Executive producers are Ryan Tillotson and Tyler Nielsen. Theme music is by Anna Hogbin with show art by Thomas Schneider. Special thanks to Giovanni Salinas, Bruce Dominguez, Thomas Woodward, Jin Kumar, Jordan Clark, Matt Gunn, the entire Supplyframe team, and you, our wonderful listeners. I'm your host, Magenta Strongheart.